Hi there, I hope you're doing good. This is the part 2 of the tonewood sustain test. And if you're interested in tonewoods and how they affect the electric guitar, I suggest you have a few minutes and watch this video, because it will help you to decide or understand how much tonewood affects the sound of electric guitar. If you haven't seen the first part, I will do a short recap and you will see what happened in the first video. So practically every guitar had here a piezo pickup, and I was listening only the sustain of the guitar body, no electronics involved. And the second part, which is this one, I'm using bridge pickup and comparing how long they sustain with the bridge pickup. But let's have a look at the recap first. You can see from the frequency range that the bodies are acting differently. And there's particularly one which is very different to any of the others, which will be interesting when I'm trying to measure them next time in my next video, because there will be two parts. How it will react against the others, because the 9, although they are not the same at all, but they are closer to each other than the one of them. Okay, so the longest ringing guitar was this one. It was about 30 seconds. The bridge is more or less like Telecaster type string through P90s. At that point the electronics doesn't matter, because it's purely the acoustics of the body and the neck. And the shortest ringing guitar was Seattle ASAT Tribute. It's also string through, which is interesting. So does it really have anything to do with the bridge? Perhaps we will see when I will test through an amp what happens. Okay, now as you have seen the recap and the result of it, I'll just shortly say that this was sustaining the longest. This was the shortest. And to mention one more here, this one was the guitar which didn't have very much highs, for a reason or another. So the second part is a guitar to an amp using bridge pickup, and let's see how long they sustain, and then we compare the result to the previous one, which was purely acoustic. Weston Prestige 250. Really nice guitar, but it didn't do very good in the first test, but in this test with the pickup it sustained the longest. And the shortest was this modified Ibanez RG550. Just to mention that the pickup is not the original pickup from this guitar. Okay, so the guitars sustain about 1 minute until they go to minus 90 dB. And minus 90 dB is a very, very low volume, so you hardly hear anything anymore at that point. And that is not really that important in this test anyway, because who plays a note for 1 minute? And for that reason I have included also a sample or screenshots of what they do after 3 seconds and after 20 seconds. There is no sample of audio at that point anymore, but you can see from these screenshots how they behave, and they are more or less the same. Or there are differences, there's no doubt about it that there are differences, which comes from the microphones, of course, because some of them are single coils and some of them are humbuckers. So even from that point they have to sound different, and that is not the point of this test anyway, because I wanted to see how much tonewood itself affects the sound of the guitar and their sustain particularly. Okay, I'll put a sample here as well, so you can see, and this applies to all the guitars, that the last frequencies are around 100 Hz in all of these guitars, and it's around more or less minute, less or over, but it's something between 70 and 120 Hz, and it's practically meaningless, but anyway, it's a sustain and it tells something. Not that it really means anything to a player, but as this is a test of sustain. So this was a point where I stopped recording and called it quits. So here are the results of the test once again, and you can see that with the piezo pickup straight from the body, the best one sustained about 31 seconds and the shortest one 22 seconds. You can see there are about 6 guitars within 1 second, so if one is fifth or one is ninth, it doesn't really mean anything, because within 1 second, 24, 25 seconds, it doesn't really matter. But what is really interesting in this one, that the 2 shortest sustaining guitars were 2 of the best ones with a pickup, with a bridge pickup. What it tells? Well, first, they are really good pickups. Secondly, the tonewood sustain has hardly anything to do how the guitar performs. I'm not saying that it doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does something, but how much is very little. You can make some assumption, or they are facts actually, that these type of bridges tend to sustain more or longer than whammy bars. So this whammy bar takes a little bit away from the sustain, or shortens it. Okay, so the most interesting guitar for me was basically this one, or is this one, which was lacking a lot of highs. In this test, it became the sixth, but the more important thing is that it did have the same high frequencies as the others, more or less. I'll give you a few samples and show you how you can manipulate, affect the guitar sound itself with the electronics way more than any wood can do. So in this case, I have bridge pickup, both, and the neck. This is practically like a Les Paul. But the specialty of this guitar is, well, yes, it does have humbucker splits, but this switch here is having the middle pickup either on, in phase, or out of phase. And I'll play samples to you now what they do, because this is an effective way to make the guitar sound very different. Okay, so finally, my advice to you is that when you are purchasing a guitar, don't think too much of tone woods, especially tone woods. Think about the pickups, the electronics, and what is really important is the looks of the guitar. It may sound stupid at first, but if you have a guitar that you think that it's like a jewel, or it pleases you, it makes you want to play it, and that is the most important thing. If you are a purist and you want a Les Paul sound, well, go for it, because you are guaranteed to have as close as possible the Les Paul sound. Can you get the same Les Paul sound from other tone woods? More or less, yes, as long as the electronics and the pickups are the same. So go for a guitar that you really like the looks of it, and it has the electronics and the pickups, which you can, by the way, always change. There are millions of pickups available there. There are different types of wirings. One is very unusual, which I have in this red guitar, but it's one way to go. But there are others which you can manipulate the sound of the guitar. I also recommend that if you have humbuckers, you have guitar with split coils. It doesn't give you the Strat sound, but it gives you a possibility to go that way. So if you really like a Strat sound, you go for Strat. Or you buy a Super Strat, which you can split coils. Humbucker with a split coil is not sounding exactly like Strat single coils, but it is close enough. If you are not so, if it's not so important to you to have the exact sound, you get very close to it. Like with this one. You can get the position 4, 2 and 4 from these splits and the middle pickup. I suppose that's it for now. I hope you got something out of this. For me, this was really interesting, and it just gave me some other ideas and what to do in the future. So have a nice day, evening, night. Thanks for watching.